But yeah, now we've got time for our next speaker who'll be talking about events. Maddie, who hopefully you're around still and able to share your screen, because I think you wanted to pause some stuff in the middle of it. And yeah, Maddie is one of our product owners. She's going to be talking all about how to run better events today. So really focusing on events and what exactly it is you can do with them.
Can you see my screen?
Yeah, looks good.
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah. Hi, everyone. So I will now be talking about events, and we'll talk about we'll go over some of the things that Hamish covered, like how to set up scheduled reminders and things like that for events as well. So hopefully giving you a few more examples on the previous presentation. So this afternoon I'll give you a very quick overview of what the event dashboard looks like and what the participant record looks like on the contact record, so you can just visualize how it all works. And then we'll dig into actually creating, or how you'd manage an individual event or templates. And so we'll run through creating an event. And I will also be, throughout the recordings and the presentation, I'll be talking about the core event functionality, as well as some extensions that CompuCo have created. So for example, the members only event, I'll explain it in more detail in a little while. And another one is the events extras. So I'll explain what both of those extensions do, but if the videos I'm showing you look a bit unfamiliar or include things that are different to your CiviCRM setup, that'll be why. And we can explain how to access those and install them after the presentation. So once we've looked at creating an event template, we'll have a look at how you'd create an individual event from that template. We'll look at event extras. We'll look at the registration forms, how they come out of the box, how you can edit them. We'll look at fee management and how you can use price sets for other purposes as well. And finally, we'll have a look at how you can manage feedback through the event extension and activities and web form. So here's a very quick overview of events. So as anything, or as all other extensions and functionality in CiviCRM, it allows you to both manage extremely simple workflows as well as slightly more complicated or advanced work processes with, speaker registrations and lots of reminders and things like that. So it's out of the box, Civi Events offers all of these things. So you can track signups, cancellations, attendances, and you can have a number of different both participant roles and statuses, and we'll come back to that in a minute. You can allow self-registration for participants by creating online registration forms, and you can also take online payments for events. You can promote your event on your website by having either by creating an API or by just linking to an info page that then directs them straight to the registration form in CiviCRM. You can streamline event setups. So if you have a monthly trustee meeting or something like that, you can create a template that will just then recreate that event every month. So you don't have to, send out reminder. You don't have to create the reminders each time. You can just create repeat events very easily. There's also, so you can also use event templates and an event copy functionality. On the day of the event, you can allow for participant check-in if you have a tablet or anything like that. So that's useful to keep track of attendances. And finally, Hamish has been over this quite a lot, but we'll just look at some of how the automated email reminders can work. So let's take a quick look at the dashboard. I just need to takes a little while to load. Okay. So to access the event dashboard, you just visit the event menu at the top, and then you'll have event dashboard. And as you can see here, so this recording was taken back in October, which is why the dates of the events are in the past. Obviously, if you're using it now, it will show upcoming events. But at a glance, the main table shows you the title of the event, the ID, the type of event. So again, in the event settings, you can personalize this completely. So if you have workshops rather than conferences or webinars, you can list all the different types of events that your company runs, and then they'll appear here when you're creating an event. It displays whether it's public or not, and obviously the date of the event, if it's a single day or over a period. It also gives you an overview of the participants that have signed up for your event. So we're going to look at what this counted, not counted means in more detail, but it also shows you the status of the participants who've signed up. So if we look at counted, not counted here, we can see we've got 3 people who've registered for this event. Under the counted category, we have 2, and you'll see that their status is registered and their role is attendee. So similarly to the type of event, you can in the event settings, you can change and add as many statuses and roles as you want. So if you don't call people attendees, you call them, I don't know, delegates or something like that. You can change that. And within those settings, you can set some rules. So in this case, we'll see that attendees are in the counted category, and I'll explain what that means in a second. And then we have the second category, which is not counted. And here we can see that the participant with the role speaker is not being counted. So when we come to the event, creating an event, there's one of the fields on the event is the number of participants that can sign up. So when you have an online form and you say your event can only hold 100 people, when it hits 100, the registration form will close and you won't be able to take any more signups. But people who have a different role will not count towards that. So imagine you have lots of volunteers on the day of your event. You don't really want those to count towards the participant count, but you do want to keep track of the fact that they were at your event and they were supporting it. So when you're configuring all the different roles that your organization uses, you can select whether or not they should be counted towards the total. So we'll see this in a bit more detail when we're looking at the template for creating an event. So we'll go back to the counted one, and I'll just show you one other thing. So as you can see, this is a really quick shortcut to see all the participants who've signed up for your event. And from here, you'll see that it's a participant search result page. And I don't know if you use this, but the same way as you on any other contact search result page, you can then perform any bulk action for the list of participants who are there. So we'll see 2 examples here. So once you've selected your 2 participants, you can either print name badges, which is a specific action that comes from the find participant search, or if after your event, when you come to this page, if you haven't taken attendance during the event, you can bulk update the status of attendance. So you can mark them all as attended and just copy down the status. So it's a useful starting point when you're doing anything, relating to events or managing your event. Starting from the event dashboards allows you to see the important information at once. And now you'll see this has changed. So now that we've marked them as attended, you now have an overview to see who was registered, who's attended, who might have cancelled, all in this overview dashboard. Okay. So next we'll have a quick look at what the participant record looks like. So again, once you come to the contact record for the participant, you'll have a tab specifically for events where you can see anything related to all the event signups and the information about the events for that particular contact. So again, we have a table view where you can see the event title, the fee level for this particular event, so how much this particular participant paid. You can see the date that they registered and the date of the event. And again, you can see the status and the role for this particular participant. What this example also shows is that a single contact can sign up to an event twice, so that he can have 2 participant records for one same event. So in this example, we had they signed up as a keynote speaker, and in the end, the keynote speaker role has been cancelled, so they're no longer a speaker, but they signed up again as a delegate. So you've got a really clean history of what, the interaction with that person in the event. And one last thing to note from this view, from this events tab on the contact record, is that you can sign up if you're speaking to someone, you're on their contact record and speaking to them, and you're telling them about an event, you can sign them up for an event directly from here. You don't have to go into the event and add contact. So that's a useful functionality. So the next recording we're going to look at is creating an event template. So the reason I included the event template rather than just creating an event from scratch is because the the data that you have to input on the template is very similar to than what you'd have to put on an individual event, so we can cover both in one go. So again, as always, you start from the events menu at the top, and then you have this event templates option. So when you click on that, usually this would be blank and you'd create your first template here for the, in order to be efficient, we created a template ahead of time and filled it in so we can just show you which fields are important. So here, when you click on edit, this view should be quite familiar. So this is what the event creation screen looks like. So you have different tabs for each of the steps when you're setting up an event. Now, the first thing some of you might notice is that some of the tabs are missing and some of them are a bit different. So as I mentioned in the introduction, we've created this extension called Event Extras. And all that it does is really a new settings page that will appear under Administer Civi Event Extras, and it allows you to hide any of the tabs that you don't use. So a lot of our clients don't use the Tell a Friend functionality or the personal campaign function. I can't remember what the other tabs are. We'll look at them in a few more slides, but it just allows you to really remove any of the fields that you don't find useful. So I'll show you all the different settings that include on that in case it's of interest. And the second key difference is that we have a members only event tab, which you might not have on your CiviCRMs for the moment, and I'll explain the functionality of that when we get to the tab. So on this first screen, we obviously have all the info and settings for this event template. So you have to give the template a title, and again, we've got this event type here, so you can set up as many event types as you want in the system. So here we have a training type, and then we indicate that the next two fields are variables, so you would change that for each event that you create. After that, we have the number of participants field. So here, as I mentioned previously, there's only 100 participants, so it's very important to make sure that the roles, the counted and not counted, is set up properly so that the people who are counting towards this 100 are actually people you want to be taking a spot at your event. You can offer a wait list if you want to be able to collect more signups, and it allows you to add a message when the event is full and a message to display to people on the wait list telling them we'll be in touch with you a day before the event or a week before the event, whenever you review that wait list. You can add a sharing link to share an event on Twitter, Facebook, or any other social media, and you can define whether an event is active or not. At the bottom of here, you can see some additional event details. Those are just custom fields that are related to events, so you can set up any number of those if there's information that you like to collect when you're creating new events. Now, when we go to the second tab, we're going to look at fees. So I'll come back to fees again later. In this section, we'll look at the fee functionality that's out of the box. So just setting up fees on this tab. You can decide whether or not all events have to are paid events. So you can decide that first. And then there's a few different ways that you can collect payments for an event. So if you take a payment at the door, or if you prefer to send an invoice, you can select this enable pay later option, and then it gives you the two fields to actually add detail as to how you would take that payment. But if you want to take the event on the form, that's also possible. So you have to define the fee label. So obviously it's just tickets or event fees, and the financial type. So it's important to select event fee here rather than donations or membership, just so you, when it comes to finding contributions in the system and for accounting purposes, it's the right financial type. You see here an option to add a price set. So we'll look at how you can use price sets in a minute, but for the time being, we'll just set it up using the regular fee configurations. So here you can see that we've got two separate fees, a standard ticket and a ticket with reading materials, with two different prices. So when you create the form, participants will be able to pick either of those tickets. And if you scroll to the bottom of the page, you also have the option to add discounts by sign up date. So if you can add more than one discount. So if you say you have a few waves of tickets, you can have wave one, and then it might be 3 weeks before the event. So for a week, you have a ticket price at £100 instead of 150. Then you have a second wave where it's 125 for the following week, and then it goes up to the 150 for the ticket. And the way it works is you just call those you create the new discounts, and then you click on add discount set, and it will create a second table of fees at the bottom. And then you can specify the price that it should be between those dates. And then as time goes by, your form will automatically update with the correct fee. So you don't have to integrate it with CiviDiscount or anything. It's all manageable through this tab. Yep. Then the next step is to set up an online registration form if you want to take online registrations. So out of the box, again, it comes with, once you tick it, it comes with the register now as the registration link text, and it comes with one profile by default, which is the registration info. So we'll have a look here. You can add some intro text or some footer text just to make the form a bit more informative. But out of the box, you will have this registration info profile, and as in other places in Civi, you can edit the profile directly from here. So if for some reason it's important for you to have the phone number so that you can contact people before the event, then you could just add that directly from here. So yeah, it's quite easy to use. In this example, we've also created a second profile to collect accessibility requirements and the dietary requirements. So those are just custom fields that we've created that we've added to a profile that we're using here. And you can add as many profiles as you like on this form to collect as much information as you need. The last three sections of this tab are the confirmation screen. So once they've submitted their data, you might want them to just review that it's all correct. A thank you screen, and obviously you can decide whether or not to send a confirmation email. You can use this, or you can set up a scheduled reminder on the scheduled reminders tab. So in this example, we won't use it, but if you do, it's just a standard email that will be sent out as soon as the form is submitted. So now the members only event. So this is the extension I was talking about at the beginning. So this is something that we built for some of our clients. So this extension would require a logged in area, so a members area or something like that, because it would require knowing whether one of your, well, a user has a membership or not. So if they're logged in, then there's a way that you can set up a Drupal role sync, and that can check what membership a user has in the system. So in this example, we're configuring this particular event is only for users who have a full membership, full annual membership. And if they don't have one, then we're going to provide a purchase membership link. So when they try to access the event, they'll either have the option to log in or to purchase a membership. The purchase a membership option will bring them to whichever link you've added here. So if you have a web form or a contribution page that creates the membership, it would redirect them to that. They can buy their membership, and then when they come back to the event registration form, if they're logged in, the system should know they have that membership, and then they'd be able to sign up for the event. We also expanded the functionality of this extension to also work with groups. So as you know, with smart groups, you can use any combination of criteria as you would like. So here it will search for all groups in your system, and if they're not part of that group, then it will just say event for, you can say an event only for your the use case here is so large I can't think of an example from the top of my head, but it might just be people who have a relationship with a certain organization, or people who are in a certain committee, however you want to break them up. So this, yeah, the functionality here is extremely broad. But in our example, we'll go back to just using those who have a full annual membership. So the fifth tab that we're looking at is the scheduled reminders. So here, I think there were a few questions previously about whether you can use the same template for different people or for different reminders. In this case, you could. So here we have, but you might actually, the reason we have two different reminders is that the templates are slightly different. So if we look at the attendees scheduled reminder, so there's one for attendees and one for speakers. And the reason we have two separate ones is obviously the content is different for both. So in this case, it's going to recipients who are registered. It'll be the same kind of time trigger. So 1 week before the event start date, comes from the events team. And here you have the limit or add to recipients. So you can limit it to just people with this specific role. And then when we go down into the configurations of the email, you can see the subject and the content of the email include lots of tokens. So you can use whichever tokens that you usually use with events or activities or any contact tokens to make the emails a bit more personalized. And in the speaker one, on the other hand, they will also, I'll just let it get to it. So here you can see we have the same registered 1 week before the event and the roles as for speakers, but the main difference is the content is different because they want them to upload their slides. So we've added a checksum token link. So I don't know if you're all familiar with this, but it allows, the checksum token allows you to direct contacts to a form, or mostly to a form without them being logged in, and it will pull through their first name, last name, email address, and maybe any other relevant information that you have on that form. So if all that information exists already on their contact record, it will automatically populate it. So they only need to update the new information or add a slide or something like that in this example. And finally, there's a feedback email, which is set to send 1 day after the event. And obviously the recipient status is attended rather than registered. We only want it to go out to people who actually came to the event. And again, for your feedback form, you can use a very similar process with the checksum token. So if you have a feedback form, which starts with first name, last name, the event they went to, and then you just want them to fill in, to give you a star rating or a comment, then if you use a checksum token, you make sure that all the kind of core information is filled in on their behalf. And then the last tab we will we'll come to is the repeat functionality. So as I mentioned in the intro slide, it's very possible if you have a recurring meeting, you can set it up here. So if it's only every Monday, Monday every 2 weeks, you can, if it's only recurring for a period, you can set it all here, and you can remove dates if there's bank holidays or things like that. So we won't set it up for this template, but the functionality exists. So there we go. Those are all the main settings that you have on an event template. And as I mentioned, when you're creating an individual event, you have very similar fields. The only difference when it comes to actually creating a single event, so same process, you go to the events menu, create an event, and obviously the first field there is from a template. So if you have the template select in the system, you can just select it there. It will populate everything that's been, all the settings that have been there previously, and it will allow you to change the title, the summary, to add the start date, etc. Another thing that you'll need to add here is the location of the event, which is not necessarily added to the template. So here's a quick overview of the events extras extension I mentioned. So these are all the settings that are included. So you can hide the location tab if you don't use it. As I mentioned, we don't really use Tell a Friend or the Personal Campaigns tab, so we hide them by default on our site installations. You can also, if you don't use the complete description field, or if all your events are public, then you can hide that and set the default value to always be public. So it really just allows you to simplify the experience for your event managers if you have some really standardized fields that you don't use or settings that you do use. And you can access the event extras. It's not on the CiviCRM extensions list, but you can get it from our GitHub account if that's of interest. Next, we'll look at the registration form. Which takes a second to load. So once you've selected to have an online registration form, then links will be created automatically for you under these event links. So you have both a test drive form and a live form, so you can test the process of signing up if you want to, but you also have an event info page. It's up to you whether you use it or not. When you're connecting an event to your website, you can choose to link directly to the info page if it has some useful information, or you can link it directly to the registration page, which is the form. So this is the event information page. It's not the nicest looking page, but you can style it however you want, and you can include more information if you want. But here you have the event title, the date, the fees, any additional custom data, and then a link to the registration form. We also, for this particular example, we enabled the share now option, so you can share the event on social media. And then if you click through to register now, it will take you to the registration form. And as you can see here, we have our registration profile with first name, last name, email, and we have the fees. So this is a different example, but there's 2 different fees, either the basic price or a price with dinner. And if they select, in this case, they set it up to be an event where you pay by credit card. So you just select whichever fee you want. And then there's a payment processor attached to it, which allows you to take the payment directly through the form. So if we come back to fees a little bit, in that example, it was just the stand, and the example previously, we just set up the fees on the fee tab of the event. Another way you can do it is by using price sets. So price sets allow you to have a slightly more complex fee structure. So in this case, I've used a similar example. If you have waves of releases of tickets, you have a first wave so this event is on the 30th of May, it's your yearly conferences, and the tickets go out on sale 1 month before the event. So for that first day, you could pretend you have a very big discount. So for the first wave, the tickets might be £8. Then I took the screenshot on the 6th of May, I think. So we were in the second wave of tickets. So then the ticket was £12. And then once you've hit the final release, then the ticket might go up to £15. And you can configure that here. You could also configure it in the fee page if you wanted to, but price sets allow you to do that. And on top of that, the benefit of, well, the reason why you might want to do it in price sets is that you can add the add-ons on top of whichever. So rather than having to create a few different versions of the price plus the meal, price plus the meal, plus the plus the printout or the agenda or whatever, the ticket itself, the price can change, but maybe the add-ons, the price stays the same. So if you use a price set, you can allow the ticket price to change throughout time, whereas this add-on section of the price set would be fixed, and they can select. It looks like radio buttons, but it's actually a checkbox, so they can either have the lunch and the printout or just the lunch. Another very useful use of price sets could be for breakout rooms. So Civi doesn't have a program management system inbuilt for Civi events, but a way you could use it is by creating. So here we have both the fee structure as well as some sessions. So you could create a price set which allows the user to select a ticket type, so the VIP ticket and standard. And then within that price set, you can create options that aren't tied to a fee. So you see there's no price attached to either of these, but it's configured within the price set. So you could ask them to sign up for one of the breakout rooms in the morning and one of the breakout rooms in the afternoon. And you can see that ticking both of those options doesn't change the total. So it's just a creative way of using price sets to manage program management or session management. And finally, you can also manage all the feedback through CiviCRM. So just give it a second to load. So we're going to go back to a participant record. So in this case, if you look at the events tab, you can see that this person attended an event and feedback was requested. So if you go under the activities tab, you can see an email for a feedback request was sent. Thank you for attending our email. And clearly that email included a link to a web form, which was used to collect the feedback. So in that web form, the web form was configured with some participant custom fields, which means that when they submitted the web form and their feedback, you'll be able to access the feedback directly on the participant record. So when you view the participant record, you can see all the details, how much they paid, whether they attended or not. And further down, you have a tab for the event feedback, so that when you're reporting on participants, you can have everything in one place. You can have one report with the status, etc., and the feedback for that particular event. So it's all stored in a logical way. And I think that's it for the slides. So I saw there's a few questions which we can, I think we have
quite
time.
a lot of questions. I think, yeah, we're running slightly over. So,
okay.
As I've said, we'll send out recording. However, you know, I think it's worth, if people have some questions, we can probably spare a few more minutes to go over some of them, although I think there've been quite a lot of questions, so we'll see what we can go through. And yeah, the recording will be sent out, so if anyone does have to just drop off, then, you know, feel free to. But yeah, if you need, if you want to know about any of the extensions or anything we've mentioned, or, you know, you think, oh, you know, there's something really good, but you might need some help with it, then more than happy to kind of help you with that if you get in touch with us. So yeah, questions, Maddie, I think.
I'm trying to catch up.
Yeah, I know
in
the chat's
chat, but
done my best to answer them as we're going along.
Yeah.
And I think, Maddie, you were covering things. People were asking questions about something you were just about to cover as well, which was quite interesting. So there were some questions about taking a donation on the same form as an event registration. So yes, you can do that with price sets, set up 2 fields. Someone asked a really nice question about paying a deposit and then taking the rest of the fee later. So you kind of can, but there's a bit of a manual step in the middle where you take the deposit and then you change the price in the back end. You can actually then email out the invoice and they can pay that online as kind of like the second step. So yeah, it needs a bit of setting up, but it can be done. Just thinking if there's anything else here. But otherwise we did cover a lot. I think there's a couple of questions about CiviZoom integration. So there's actually 2 CiviZoom integrations, I think. And I think what we found is that one of them has some scalability issues. It affects the performance a little bit. So there's a bit to be fixed there. But what it basically does is it allows you to kind of have a Civi event that registers people in Zoom. But what it doesn't do is it won't push back the data back into Civi to say that people attended. So that'd be lovely to add if anybody wants to fund a bit of development. Is there a preferred way for handling one person registering for multiple quantities? Do you mean one person registering, purchasing tickets, like a table ticket or something like that, Linda?
Yeah, sorry. Right, I'm in a cafe, so it's awfully loud. So, but yeah, so we often have a Zoom event where we have one person sort of register for multiple quote unquote tickets, and so they have the option to register. You know, we're a charity, so we give them, it's sort of a donation. They have option to register for 2, 3, 4 tickets, but they're really just going to get one link to the Zoom video. And so I've played with different ways of handling the fees on that, and they have their ups and downs, and so I didn't know if y'all had any recommendations for registering multiple people for the same event, like one person doing the actual registration, but it might be multiple participants in person at the same event, or multiple participants in a sort of Zoom situation like I mentioned, and I'll mute.
Yeah, so let's keep on. There's kind of 2 situations. One is where you go to an event registration form, or Civi supports 2 situations. Obviously, in the world there's probably more, but where you go to the event registration form and you want to give the name or details of each individual registrant separately, and they will all be registered as separate, let's say, contacts in your database. So that's one flow. And that's, if you go to the CiviCRM event registration page, there's a little button you can click, which I think is allow register multiple participants. And then there's a confusing button, which is to whether or not to allow the same email address to be used for multiple participants, which basically, obviously, if you're confirming that they're registered, if they've got the same email address, that could be good. It might not be what you want to do, so tick that at your own risk. And that will then have a registration form where people can select how many people, but then they register and buy each ticket separately. Basically, they kind of register 5 people, they give you the name of 5 people. That's one approach. The other approach is to use a price set, and in the price set settings, you can specify that a ticket is 5 places at the event. So if you had a table, which was, let's say, 5 or 10 person table, you can create it as a ticket option. And then, as Maddie showed with the counted, it would take up 5 seats at the event. So that might be the way that you want to do it, in which case, one person registers, you get one person's details, but they've bought a 5 seat place. So there isn't really an in-between. So it's kind of one or the other, as Civi does it, unless you play around with web forms, and then it's a bit more complex, but that's kind of the options.
Okay. Yeah, but that helps me think through the different use cases. And yeah, that's helpful. Thanks.
No problem. Alex, I wonder if we still have time, or maybe one last question if there is anything.
Sorry.
So, Lantha, we've got one last question perhaps. I have an event where one person could register their entire family.
Sorry, that's not a question. I was answering Eric's one person registering for multiple children. I should have said at Eric. Sorry.
Yeah, and I mean, maybe to wrap up and just say thank you so much for everybody for making the time to join us. We've tried to do these every couple of months. We'll hopefully get another one up soon. We'd love to hear your feedback, on how we've done the structure, if there's anything else we should be looking to cover, what we should look to cover in the future. If you enjoyed this session, also if you check out our YouTube channel, which we'll send out in an email, there's the previous meetups that we did as well. So we did one on memberships, one on cases, a lot of useful stuff there as well. And hopefully we can, add to that and build up more and more, video things to refer to. Get in touch if there's anything that we can help with. I'll do a little plug for Civi Plus, which is kind of our CiviCRM SaaS platform. So if you're having trouble hosting and managing the site, then that might help to make things easier. Otherwise, if there's any more we can do, just be in touch, and we hope to see you soon.
Yeah, thanks everyone. Yeah. And yeah, hope to see you all soon.
Take care.
End the recording.